Hello. I just wanted to make a short video on getting off of opioids, specifically strong opioids like heroin, fentanyl, pills, Percocets. All of these are opioids. Opioids are very tricky. Um, there's a lot of times I said I'm just going to do it once, and that has happened many times. Many times the once turned into a year. It's just very tricky. It changes the brain in some way that you think it's okay. So you do more and more. And the danger is, for one thing, it's not legal to buy the strong opioids like heroin. Um, so you never know exactly what you're getting. And a lot of times they will mix the heroin. You never get pure heroin. They mix it with other stuff to spike it to make it stronger. Like, for instance, fentanyl or even carfentanil. Now, fentanyl is like, I think, like 10 times stronger than heroin, and carfentanil is like 10 or 20 times stronger than fentanyl. So if you're getting carfentanil, that's like death, pretty much. I mean, most of the people that I knew a few years ago that were into this lifestyle, basically, like 90% passed away with overdoses. I almost overdosed. I did overdose a few times, had to be resuscitated a few times. Using needles, is very tricky because you hit a big vein with a little bit of carfentanil. You hit a big vein with a little bit of carfentanil, and all you need is a speck of that stuff, and that's it. You're gonna be they're gonna find you with the needle still stuck in you. You won't have time even to remove the needle. That's how fast it is. Basically, you'll stop breathing. The opioids depress the breathing centers. You basically don't feel like you need to breathe, and you stop breathing, and death comes. And if you do get resuscitated, many times you end up with brain damage. So getting off of this monster uh, heroin addiction is extremely difficult. I think most heroin addicts cannot get off of it. Um, Now, with the new medications like Subutex or Suboxone, many people do get off it with this, but you still have to go through a few days of withdrawals. You can't just go from heroin to Subutex. It won't work. You're going to take the Subutex or Suboxone within even 2 days, and you're still going to feel horrible if you don't get the heroin. So you have to be basically in full withdrawals. The heroin has to be out of your system or almost out of your system. It usually took me about 3 or 4 days before I can feel the effects of the Suboxone, and that's 3 or 4 days is pure hell. I mean, it's like, think of every horrible, depressive. It's everything bad, every depression, anxiety, all multiplied by 100. Time extends. I mean, a minute turns into an hour feels like days. It's really very difficult. I did do it. I did try to do it many times to get off, and I did do it once, but I reduced my dosage from like 10 bags a day, 10 to 15 bags a day. I went down because basically I went broke. When you are doing heroin for any length of time, you're gonna basically lose it all. You will sell your grandmother. You will do whatever it takes to get more because it's a scary thing to run out of it. Once you get a taste of what the withdrawals feel like, even for a minute, you don't want to go through that. And people will, even if they want to be free of the drug, they're like trapped. You just a fearful thing to go into withdrawals. It's a fearful thing, and even if you are in the process of withdrawing, trying to withdraw, within a few days you're gonna do anything just to get it, to get the relief. So unless you're somewhere where you just cannot get it at all, it takes about 10 days to 2 weeks to start feeling a little bit better without the drug. They say a week. They used to tell me a week. I never felt any better. Suboxone, after 3 or 4 days, you can start taking the Suboxone, and the Suboxone will give you a good buzz. You're not gonna want the heroin, and if you do it, it's not gonna work. But then it's hard to get off the Suboxone. It takes 2 weeks to get off of the heroin and the Percocets and all that. About 2 weeks. The Subutex or Suboxone takes about at least 2 months. And I've been told by some doctors even 6 months before you can start sleeping normally again. Uh, with me, it was mainly the restless leg syndrome, not sleeping, the depression, and not sleeping and the depression. The restless leg was the worst for me. The restless leg would drive me absolutely nuts. I mean, it's not only your legs; it's up here, your shoulders. You just feel like you want to jump out of your skin. It's just a very horrible feeling. I don't recommend that anybody get into opioids because you're removing your natural. It's not the drug that gets you high. It's really your brain that's getting you high. Your brain is producing more of that dopamine stuff that gets the happy feeling. That we need. We need that natural happy feeling just to get by in life. That we get that from God. And what heroin and other opioids do, it brings it out, it intensifies it. So you feel fantastic. You feel everything's perfect. You're like in heaven. Everything's great. The thing is, when you run out, that's the problem. And even if you don't run out, after a while, your body is and your brain will need more and more of the drug to feel the same effects. So even if you have an endless supply of good heroin, after months, it just won't do the same. You're just gonna be taking a whole lot of that stuff. It just won't do the same. You're just gonna be taking a whole lot of that stuff just to feel normal. That's what I realized after a couple of years, and I decided to try to get off of it. And also, I went broke, and I ended up in jail because most people that go broke from heroin, either if you don't beg on the streets for money, you have to try to shoplift or find money in some other way. I'm not a violent person, so I wasn't gonna do anything violent, so I did what I could, shoplifting and selling stuff and stuff like that. I did try to beg. I did get to that desperation where I went on the street with a sign, holding up a sign, "I'm hungry," fake limp, which most of those guys out there, they're not really hungry. They don't have a limp. They wanna get more drug, whatever it is. Sometimes it's heroin, sometimes it's, alcohol, but usually it's the heroin. That's the big one. That's the one that people get hooked on, and it's really hard to get off of that, and it will really destroy your life. Basically lose forget about money, that's gonna be gone. Then goes your family, your possessions, everything goes. All you want is that little bag there, that needle filled up, with the juice, and that's the only thing that makes you happy when you're an addict. It's the only thing. I used to call it the happiness in a bag, just forget about all my problems and and I got started with because on my job, I had access to a very similar drug that they give in the hospitals called Dilaudid, which is like a very clean heroin. The withdrawals are not as bad. The high is absolutely marvelous. But eventually I lost my job because trying to get the drug became more important than my paycheck, basically. And I would go to work for the Dilaudid. The money was just a bonus. And when I lost my job, I lost my supply. So then The closest thing to Dilaudid is the heroin or the Percocets, but it was easier to get heroin because I knew somebody that was already hooked on it. Little by little, I got into that lifestyle. I met my own dealers and all of these people, including me, we were in and out of jail, in and out of jail, either for getting caught buying it or getting caught shoplifting. You're gonna end up in jail, and then you're gonna go through withdrawals, and I've been through withdrawals. I'd say, man, probably 20 times, but one time was extremely bad for me. I wanted to get off because my daughter was still very young, and I was losing her, through custody and everything. I didn't want that, and I decided to just get off of it. I made up my mind, and it was the most painful thing I did, I think, in my entire life. That first night that I was without it, it was so bad, okay? That first night that I was without it, it was so bad, okay? I'm gonna give you an example of how bad this was because I can't paint it in a picture. The only way I could paint it is that I was holding my breath in the hopes of passing out to get some relief. It's not just that everything hurts. If you have any kind of backache or anything, it's multiplied. But that's the least of it. It's the anxiety, the depression, the want to jump out of your skin. It's undescribable, like hell. It's hell. It's horrible, horrible. You do not want to experience that ever, ever. And I went through that many times, but I remember that one time, which was basically my last real withdrawal from heroin, was when I was trying to get on the Percocet, on the Suboxone. I knew I had to be clean for them to give it to me. They were going to drug test me, so I knew I had to wait like 4 or 5 days, at least. I think it's 4 days, and after 4 days, you're clean from opioids. Cocaine takes like 6 days, I think, but the opioids takes about 4 days. You drink a lot of water, you're gonna be free of the drug, then the Suboxone will work. And I was getting it for free, so I couldn't pay for anything. I lost my job, I had lost everything. So I started on the Suboxone, and it was like it's a honeymoon. You feel great on that stuff, you feel perfect for like a year. I was taking it, I felt great. Then you start again, kind of you get used to it. And that's not the kind of drug that you can do more. It has, for me, they say 16 milligrams is the max that your body can take, and you won't overdose either because your body's only going to process 16 milligrams. Even if you take 100, it doesn't matter. But for me, it was like 2 milligrams. 2 milligrams was the same as 16 milligrams. 2 milligrams was the same as 16 milligrams. So I went down to two because I got off of that too. That took me months. I had to go to another country where I knew I wasn't going to get the Suboxone. And I went to another country. I went to South America for 2 months and I still couldn't sleep right. When I got back, I still wasn't sleeping. And so, it took me, but I was strong enough already to say, I'm not going to get back into that. I suffered 2 months. I'm pretty much free. So I stayed off of it. Now I'm just taking kratom. Kratom is like a natural, legal, very mild opioid that I don't think you can overdose on it. The worst I get is headaches if I take too much, but I can function. I'm not tempted to do another drug as much, and I've been on it for years now. For a few years, I've been taking kratom regularly. That seems to work for me. It's not the same beautiful high as heroin, but I mean, I want my beautiful high as heroin, but I mean, I want my natural high anyways with God. I think that's more important. I think I was fortunate to have survived the overdoses and to be able to get off of. drugs, especially the heroin, because they laced it with fentanyl. And once I got a bag with carfentanil, thankfully, I took a tiny little speck of it, because there was people already dying in that area, so I didn't want to. I knew I might have gotten the wrong batch. Well, it was the right batch for me at that time because I wanted it to be strong. But I tried a little bit, tiny bit, like a drop in the syringe, drop, and I passed out. I woke up like 3 hours later in my closet. Thank God I survived. I don't know if I stopped breathing or not. Obviously, if I stopped breathing, I didn't stop breathing totally because I'm still alive. But I did wake up like 3 hours later. No matter how little bit I took of that stuff, that carfentanil is so strong when they lace heroin with carfentanil, not just the fentanyl, but the carfentanil, that if the cops, when they handle the bags, if they're not wearing gloves, they will pass out. That's how strong it is. Most people, they know it's carfentanil, they won't inject, they'll just smell it. And that's it. It's enough. But anyway, yeah, so you know, that withdrawal was very horrible. It takes after the second night, the first night I for me was the worst, and the second night was almost equally as bad, but emotionally you're stronger because you think I made it one night, I made it one night, so I guess I can do two now. And you feel that way, you get stronger. Every day that goes by, so one day that you're more free. But I would suggest to anyone that's taking heroin regularly to go down to one bag, just one bag a day, or even half a bag a day. And then after half a bag a day for a while, then just you gotta go through it. You have to go through it a few days. And if you get on the Suboxone, which I recommend too, because otherwise most people cannot get off of heroin without some help, some medical help. Take the Suboxone for maximum 2 weeks. If you take it more than 2 weeks, you're gonna be totally hooked on Suboxone. You're gonna need it everywhere you go. You're gonna wonder if you're gonna run out. You're gonna have to spend money getting it. It's very hard to get off Suboxone. Very difficult. Takes a very long time. It's not as intense as the heroin withdrawal, but it's prolonged. I mean, months, months. Uh, the best thing is take the Suboxone for a week or 2 weeks max, and then just stop everything. Get on kratom if you have to for a while. Or for me, I mean, yeah, it's better if you don't take anything, but I can't. I have to admit that the kratom helps me, and I'm taking it. And I'm not going to overdose. I'm not going to go to jail, and I'm not going to lose my family and everything I have. I'm able to have some income now, and some family left, and you know, so and I'm alive. So this video goes to all those people that think that you're totally trapped because that's what it feels like. You're not. You're not. It's a choice. It's a choice. Just do it smart. Wean down. Just wean down and make a quality choice to say, I'm gonna stop this shit. And then you're free. You're free from going to spend all that money and trying to get the good stuff. And they always get fake stuff. You get ripped off. You get mugged sometimes. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So hopefully this video helps somebody. I don't even know if anybody's gonna watch it. I don't get too many views on my videos. My videos basically the quality sucks. I'm not a very technical person, but I hope this can help some people out there. If I did it, whoever you are watching this, you can do it. If you're not on it, don't try it. Do not try any kind of opiates because it's not worth it. If you're gonna do a drug, do something else. Psychedelic maybe, kratom, but not opioids because you're gonna be in such a prison that you're gonna never get off of it. Most people they don't get off of it. The the older people that have been on it that I knew back then were already very old. They were on it for years, 20 years and more. Those that survived, most people, they died, they would die 20 years old, 30 years old, they would die 20 years old, 30 years old, a lot of those people died already that I knew very young. I was actually the oldest. Okay, thank you. I think this video is probably long enough. Thank you, and God bless.